Okay, I just got done watching UFC 281, Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira, and an amazing pay-per-view card with, I think John Alex said it had the most finishes in UFC, or no, rephrase, the first round finishes in UFC history. So, and that doesn't surprise me because there was a lot of people getting stopped left, right, center. In terms of the actual action, might be card of the year. You know, the three fights in the sort of three main fights. I think the main event was a brilliant fight. The co-main even surprised me of how entertaining that was, and the Chandler Poirier fight was an absolute war. And yeah, three great fights and a very entertaining night. Both belts changing hands. In terms of my prediction, I got 2 out of 3, so not a bad record. But yeah, brilliant card, and I'm just gonna go through it. So as I do, I started off with the. Actually, before I get to that, I'll go a few. Let me just go through the other facts on the main card because obviously it was a as far as pay per views go, the whole card in general was fairly decent, and if you go through them the other ones, so obviously you had Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles, and an absolute, I don't want to say an embarrassment of a fight, but just not a really entertaining one. Hooker just was trying to keep on the feet. Puelles just kept shooting for leg locks every 2 seconds. And it wasn't even like he was diving at wasn't even like he was diving, at the hips or anything. He was diving directly at the leg, like the calf basically of or the feet of Dan Hooker. Just wasn't working, but Dan Hooker thankfully got the I say thankfully because it was a terrible fight how he was fighting, and thankfully got the finish in the second round. And then Frankie getting KO'd by Chris Gutierrez cold. Not the fight to give Frankie. He deserved a lot better than that, but it's unfortunately how a lot of legends go out. Some legends go out like Khabib, and some go out most of the time like an Anderson Silva or a Frankie Edgar by losing your last fight and getting knocked out. And is it nice? But it's just a sport. But yeah, brilliant though. 2 openers and to the main card, and now starting off. So obviously, like I said, I previewed the Poirier Chandler, the Sparza Whaley, and the Adesanya Pereira fight. So starting off then with Chandler Poirier, with Dustin Poirier getting the rear naked choke and finish over Michael Chandler in the third round, and a brilliant fight as you would expect. 2 of the best lightweights, 2 exciting fighters. First round, I predicted Chandler to win, obviously via KO. I thought he'd catch Poirier with the right hand and put him out cold, and he did wobble him on many occasions, but wasn't really able to get that one killer blow, which I thought he'd get. I thought the first round he had Poirier in all kinds of trouble, but then he kind of got reckless Chandler and got caught flush by Poirier, and that is sort of how I figured if it was going to be a back and forth war. I always figured Poirier would win that. It was, to me, it was if Chandler sort of smart mixed in wrestling, and he did do that. And in the obviously, and he really busted Chandler's nose with bad Poirier. But then going to the second round coming in, it was a brilliant fight from approach from Chandler because he just used his wrestling, and Chandler used his wrestling most of the time. He would be very effective, and you looked at every time he kind of shot, he was pretty much getting it most of the times. If not, he just looked like he was out, just overpowering Poirier in all those sort of occasions and all those little sequences. And I think it isn't surprising to me, to be honest, because Chandler's a good wrestler. He just doesn't use it enough. He tries to make it a fun fight every time, and it was very, very fun and entertaining. There was a few times, like there's one point where Chandler almost has a really choke and actually put his fingers in Poirier's mouth, which is, I think it's called fish hooking, not what you want to see, but scrappy fight, it tends to happen. Chandler's nose was all busted up. He's going to look like a mess after the fight, I'm sure. But yeah, a real rough fight though for him from there. And then even in the third round, he was looking good. He looked a bit tired, a bit groggy in the third round, Chandler coming into it. But again, they kind of, I think it was Chandler trying to get this shot and the takedown, and Poirier just ends up on top of them. Just a crazy sequence. Obviously, Chandler on bottom. Poirier was landing a few shots in the ground pound, and then Poirier eventually just gets the back of Chandler, and took him a while, but then eventually readjusted and got the rear naked choke, and Chandler tapped immediately, which is surprising to me. It's surprising when fighters such as Chandler and Gaethje do tap, considering how much damage they take when it comes to the when it's on the feet. I mean, Gaethje will eat bombs from Chandler and will eat bombs from Dustin Poirier, Eddie Alvarez, all these guys, and he can go out cold, but he'll never quit in there. But when it comes to submissions, Khabib Oliveira submits, so not any shame in it, but I find it curious that fighters like that do that. But it was attacked during a choke, and Poirier Jiu-Jitsu is very good. It's not, I think he has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, blah blah, but he's not like Oliveira, obviously, on the ground. Not even like how, I mean, Khabib was. Khabib Jiu-Jitsu was very underrated, actually. He was lethal whenever he got your neck. But in this sense, yeah, I think it was a routine victory for Dustin, and now I think I see him and Benil Dariush as the next fight. I think it's the fight to make. I don't really see much else out there for him. Could maybe wait for McGregor to come back and have a fourth fight, because the third one was a bit inconspicuous or a bit suspect because of McGregor's broken leg / ankle. But I don't really see that as a fight right now. I think a Gaethje fight would be an entertaining fight. I think, Gaethje's not in the same position, but in a similar position. But then I think Fiziev and Gaethje is also a fight that people are talking about, and I think that'd be a good one. Yeah, there's not really many people for him to fight, really. Dustin, I think he needs one of those top guys. So I say a Dariush, a Gaethje, or maybe a McGregor if you want to go for the money fight again. But I don't personally want to see that. But we'll see what happens with Dustin. And for Chandler, there's a few fights out there for him still. I think now would be interesting to see where he goes. Potentially he could get a McGregor fight, because I think that fight would be so entertaining to watch. McGregor's actually never really fought any of these guys. He's got Eddie Alvarez, but he hasn't really fought any of these guys recently who just come and just sort of stand in front of you and just want to bang. I know Poirier sort of does that, but he's a bit more. I think if Dustin Poirier fights to the way he can, he won't get into a war. He will just keep you on the end of his shots and eventually just KO you. But yeah, an interesting situation for those two, because obviously they both fought for the belt. Chandler's fought for it once against Oliveira, lost, and obviously Poirier fought Khabib and Oliveira and lost. So he's fought Makhachev, but I just don't know how you can sell a Poirier Makhachev fight at the moment. So I think you need to see him fight a few more times if you want him getting back in the title picture. We need some new contenders out that way. You got Dariush, you got a few others. You got Saryukin in there, and there's a few others. There's a few up and coming. Lightweight, if actually, let me look at the lightweight rankings, because the lightweight, it used to be so, I said it before, it's kind of like the UFC's money division. Obviously you got Fiziev as well, which I don't know for game, who's I think very close to that title, to be honest with you. I don't think he's as far away as people may think. And he was talking about him versus Oliveira, but I don't think that's happening. I think Oliveira needs some time off. He's been very active, or was very active as a champion, and I think he isn't really the one. That you got Gamrot who's in there. Like I said, Saryukin's in the picture. There's a few for a lightweight, a few contenders up and coming, but I think he needs some new blood just to test Makhachev, just to give him that threat. Otherwise, he will. I mean, I think he'll do what Khabib did anyway and just dominate. But I think you need to test him a little bit. One of the critiques of Khabib was that he didn't face any grapplers, so it would be nice if somebody who had a bit of that background. I know you beat Oliveira, but just someone who's more of a wrestler goes up against him. But either way, a great fight though, and yeah, exciting fight and a good fight for the division. Then we get into the co-main event in Carla Esparza versus Zhang Weili for the women's strawweight title, and went pretty much how I figured it would go. I thought Weili would basically overpower, take Carla down, and just go around the ground and pound, and the fight would be stopped. Pretty much went like that, or except from the part like she didn't get the ground and pound, she got the submission. But first rounders on the feet, Weili was just lining her up, and then there was a moment where Carla was able to get her down and kept her down for quite a while. And I think it's a bit. Carla's not a bad wrestler, so I don't really take much away from it. I do think now, I think for Esparza on the feet it wasn't close, but I do think now for Weili, she's developed her grappling quite a bit with Cejudo, and against Rose she looked quite good. It's just that sometimes she gets stuck on bottom and really can't find a way up, or can't really throw up any submissions. This is why you never want to get stuck on bottom, no matter who you're against, as we saw to an extent in the main event, but we'll get to that. And then the second round comes, and And Whaley kind of catches her in this sort of weird back crucifix almost. And she has her like arm under the, not under the, yeah, she has that one arm, one hook in under the chin. But obviously Carla was sort of controlling the, I think it was the left wrist of Whaley. But as soon as Whaley kind of got it free, she kind of got it under her arm and then eventually just locked it up and Carla tapped. And it was a very strange submission. It was a rear naked choke to an extent, but it was kind of a weird like sort of side angle. So just show you though that it shows how this sport evolves. Anything can happen. And like I said, it was like a bit of a backward crucifix that she had her in at one point. We saw quite a few of that. Actually. I remember in Dan Hooker fight, when Piels was trying to get the leg locks, he did a thing of almost crossing and almost having a body lock or almost a leg lock. And when I mean leg lock, I don't mean a submission. I mean almost hooking the legs up well together to stop him from really advancing with it. So it's interesting. I think the ground game is definitely the one aspect in BJJ is the one thing of MMA which I feel is constantly evolving. So it's fun to see though. And yeah, a great submission from Whaley, and yeah, pretty much how I expected. Carla's a very solid fighter, legend, but again, just a level below Whaley. I don't think she really ever. I never thought she'd win the fight. I think it was more competitive than I thought, but it still wasn't really close. And yeah, Whaley gets it done. She's a two-time champion. Hopefully now, I think she learned her lesson a little bit. On the feet, her kicks were very well, and she's so exciting to watch on the feet. And there's not really many people at Straw. You got Lemos who's in there with a shout. There's a few contenders up and coming. You don't want to see Rose in there anytime soon until she earns the shot back at the belt. Because I still think you can sell a third fight between those two. I still think those two are the best, but would be it's an interesting weight division, the strawweight. I feel like it's always been the more superior division out of all the other women's weight categories. And yeah, excited to see what Whaley does now. If she can keep the belt or if she loses it again. I think if she can stay focused, I don't think really many people beat her. Even Rose, I still think she's got the beating off Rose. I just think that first fight she just got caught with a flash kick, and second fight she fought well. It was a close fight. Some people actually thought she won, but I think she just kind of wasn't able to get off bottom. But hopefully, you'd think for her she's now developed a game there. But yeah, either way, though, brilliant performance on Whaley. Esparza did well, but again, just wasn't enough in the end, unfortunately for her. But an excellent performance on Whaley, and like I said, two-time champion. And yeah, I'd like to see her defend the belt in China again. I think that'd be pretty fun for her, and because she gets a lot of support, she's a fan favorite either way. And in China, I think she won the belt in China. I think it'd be even better if they could defend it there. But yeah, great performance. And then we move on to the big one, the main event: Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira for the middleweight title. The tension in this fight, from the weigh-ins, from the press conference to when they're both in the octagon, they both look ice cold in there. A real big fight feel this one. It delivered. First round very entertaining. Both guys. One thing I said in my preview. So I thought Pereira would win via KO. I said in the first round, which I was like 4 rounds off on that. But I figured the reason I said that was I kind of figured, and I said this, and this is a point I emphasized a lot in the preview, that people felt like Adesanya would just do his normal sort of thing of just coasting, making it a comfortable fight. But I said Pereira is, I think, the same size as him height wise, and there's only a 1 inch reach advantage Adesanya has on him. So he won't be able to do what he usually does to everybody else, and won't be able to land the leg kicks and the jab. Pereira is no joke as a kickboxer. He was very good in glory, and I think people didn't really take those credentials into account. That's why I think this fight, if you look at it, the way this fight actually would have been won if Adesanya did get it done, would have been just because of Adesanya's grappling. And that's shocking, and that's shocking not in a bad way, but shocking that that's how it takes someone like that to bring it out of Adesanya. Pereira, I felt always, I don't want to say he's Adesanya's kryptonite, but he just has all the intangibles. He's got the power, like the kickboxing pedigree, has the height and the reach, and the size as well, which is a big thing. He was very big in there, which is one reason I think he kind of tired towards the end of the fight. But first round was entertaining though. They both kind of, you can see Adesanya was doing a really good job of landing that sort of 1-2 down the middle, but Pereira was doing a very good job checking the kicks and was landing a lot of kicks on Adesanya, which is not something you see. Again, this is where the height and the reach come into it. I mean, most of the reach and the height, to be fair. Because Pereira looked massive in there, and he was landing those kicks time and time again. He was going to the body. He was going at Adesanya, which is not something fighters try to go at Adesanya, but usually they're just like you saw in the Whittaker fight. Whittaker just can't get near him because he's too big. Adesanya. Pereira could because he again reach is a big thing in fighting, big thing in boxing, big thing in MMA, kickboxing, whatever. If you're the same sort of reach as a guy, then it's a level playing field, and just about how you utilize your openings. And I thought Adesanya was doing alright. I actually thought Pereira was doing just a bit better in the fight. He was clinching a lot, Adesanya, especially in the first. I felt which showed you a lot the respect that he has for Pereira striking. But then as the fight, the round specifically, moved on, I see Adesanya was finding his rhythm, and then right at the end of the round, Adesanya hurts Pereira with the right hand, almost drops him, but he's able to stay on his feet. And then when the bell goes, he lands the left hand right after it. It wasn't a particularly dirty shot. I think he was just sort of riding the moment. It wasn't like you heard the bell and then you know he heard the bell and he landed the shot right after. I think it was just one of those quick reaction times. But Pereira was buzzed, but he was buzzed in the second fight and kickboxing and was able to come back. He seems to really he gets hurt and just comes back straight away. Pereira, I think some fighters can just sort of get hurt and it doesn't really affect him that much. Gaethje's similar, and yeah, and then the second round came. And I think it's a brilliant round from Pereira. It wasn't a clear, I think, it won the round, but I would say most gave him the round. He was doing really good with the jab was doing very well for Pereira, especially, which I was surprised because Adesanya's jab is very good, but usually able to slip. But one thing Adesanya kept doing, and I kept thinking this in the fight, I don't have a stake in this fight. I don't really care who wins. I like Adesanya. I like his personality. I think he's a very I know people don't like him, but he's a bit of a quirky character, and I like his fight style. I just like great fighters, and he's that. But I like Pereira as well. He's exciting. He's technical. He's not just a big guy who just wings his punches. He's very smart in what he does in them. And with but one thing I would say is Pereira is so powerful, and every time Adesanya backed up against the fence, and he did this in kickboxing, and this is where the kickboxing ring ropes help him. You can lean back off the ropes in kickboxing because there's that leverage there. There's a space in the octagon. Whilst there's more space for Adesanya to circle around, there isn't anything to lean back on. There's just a fence where you're up against a hard surface. You can't move anywhere. And that's one thing I kept doing, and I kept almost getting nervous because that left hook is there. And yeah, he had him backed up quite a few times in the second round, and then got the takedown in the third, which was shocking. But it shows you, even though Adesanya's been in MMA for a while, if you don't have that background in wrestling, it's hard. I know there's certain fighters I think who don't have that background who can overcome it. Like GSP really committed to it. I think Leon Edwards commits to it as well, considering he comes from UK and we don't have the grappling pedigree of some of those guys in America. But if you don't have that background, even if you're against a guy who isn't a wrestler, you're not going to be able to control him the way that you could do. Like, for example, I'm pretty I'm not confident. I don't know what's going to happen in this Usman Edwards trilogy fight, but I could comfortably see Usman just controlling Edwards for 5 rounds in the wrestling because he knows it. I can't see Adesanya doing that, and that is where it wasn't shocking that he got taken down. Even Adesanya, he fought a guy who's not that many fights into his mixed martial arts career, and he got taken down. Shows a lot that whilst he's an unbelievable striker, and he's a fairly competent grappler when you saw Adesanya, he's still not. Again, it's not his specialty, is my point. And we know that. But then in the third round, so second round I give to Pereira. Third round comes, and I think it was Pereira that kind of tried to get a takedown, but then he didn't really shoot in the right area, and Adesanya kind of got the body lock and eventually took him down and controlled him there for a long time. Landed elbows. He had him turned up against the fence, landed ground and pound. He was doing well actually with his wrist control. Adesanya wasn't letting Pereira move. Pereira got up, but then he kept getting put back down. There's one moment where Pereira almost went for a leg lock, but Adesanya again had him. Adesanya was in a full mount almost at points, and Pereira was at bottom and couldn't do much, to be honest. And then when that third round ended, you saw Pereira look very tired in there. And then in the fourth round, And the fourth round was interesting because Adesanya didn't really do much when it came to his grappling again. His striking wasn't much, but he kind of just did enough to win the round. And Pereira was tired, you could tell. And one thing that happened in the fourth round as well, and I noticed this a lot, Adesanya kept clinching. And there's a few times when Pereira landed some good shots to the body, and you do wonder, whilst Adesanya hasn't got the frame to gas, he's relatively muscular, so you do wonder if that does actually take an effect on him. And if that's why, and every time he kept clinching it, it's why that's why he almost commits to the takedowns, because those body shots that Pereira's landing were big, the knees especially. So, yeah, and Adesanya kind of just eventually sort of saw that round out pretty comfortably, and it looked like that's what he was going to do in the fifth round, because in the fifth round, I think everybody had it up until when the fourth ended and we entered the fifth. It looked like everybody had it 3-1 to Adesanya. They gave him, I think I gave him the first, gave Pereira the second, and gave him the third. And then gave him the fourth as well. So it looked like he was kind of coasting to a decision at that point. Wasn't really much Pereira was doing. But one thing the commentator said, and you could see this in the fifth round, his corner really gave him this Rocky type talk, like what Leon's corner did, where they were saying to him, "This is the round you're going to become a world champion." Really pumping him up. And it's one of those, if he loses, nobody cares, nobody forgets about it. But if he wins it, it looks good. And I think that's what they did. They really pumped him up. And because he knew, I think, and the commentators kept saying this, that there wasn't a round after this. It was the fifth and final round. He knew he could just empty the tank, essentially, and just do it. And I tell you what, it's so refreshing to see a fighter when they need to empty the tank, when they need to throw everything out of fight, they actually do it. And he did very well, Pereira. There was a few times, again, Adesanya kept backing up against the fence, and Pereira landed a jab. There's one moment where Adesanya checked to kick him like he hurt his leg, but it may also just been a misstep, you don't know. But it was something, because then Pereira was almost trying to pounce on that. Pereira landed some real solid shots to the body as well. And again, Adesanya just kept clinching, and it kind of like that's what he was trying to do. But eventually, that left hand, and I said this, I didn't say this, I thought this every time, like I said during the fight, he kept backing up Adesanya up against the fence. There's nowhere to go, and eventually, you do that every time for 5 rounds, one of them is going to get through. It's a little bit like when fighters in boxing try and do the rope it up. It reminds me of the Anthony and Lyndon Arthur fight, for example, where Lyndon Arthur tried to back up against the ropes, and he can't just let Anthony Yards hit him on his guard. But you let a powerful guy like that hit you, eventually one of them is going to get through. And Adesanya did well. He was doing good in the clinch, but again, it's not really his game, the clinch, either. He's decent, he's trying to throw some elbows off it, but nothing really significant. And eventually, what happened? Up against the fence, they exit the clinch, and Pereira has Adesanya up against the fence and lands that left hook, hurts him, then just unloads the tank on him, lands everything he can, hurts Adesanya. Adesanya didn't get knocked down, but got hit, and his legs just went from under him. He's stumbling up against the fence. He can't really get his bearings. He was getting hit constantly with left hooks, right hooks, uppercut, right hooks, everything that Pereira had. And eventually, Mark Goddard stops the fight. And honestly, people may say it's a bad stoppage. He saved him, Adesanya, from getting brutally KO'd there. I don't care what you say. Adesanya was not surviving that. Pereira was not slowing down and was landing everything at Adesanya. Was hitting him. Adesanya's nose was bleeding. Blood was coming out of his nose. You could see he was just stumbling all over the octagon. I think he saved him from quite a bad knockout, to be honest. Pereira does it again. I don't think since Brock Lesnar, I can remember a fight coming in the UFC and capturing a belt so quickly. And I said it on Twitter. I think Adesanya must hate this guy. He knocked him out in kickboxing. The only KO he ever had in kickboxing, Adesanya. He's now come to MMA and done the exact same thing again. Didn't put him out cold, but ultimately he's got the stoppage on his record, and I think it is one of those things. Some things are just meant to be, and like I said, I think Adesanya can beat Pereira, but I just think there's something about him where he just has this number. He's like the boogeyman to Adesanya, and Adesanya is a great fighter, a great champion. They're going to have another fight, and I'm excited to see what happens in this rematch. It's the fourth fight they'll be having. Pereira's remarkably 3 up against him, which is crazy. But yeah, he wasn't really happy about the stoppage at Adesanya, but it wasn't like protesting like crazy. I think he was just annoyed. Maybe some fighters just want to be put out cold, so I respect it though. And like, he's a great champion, but It just shows you got to be focused. Same thing happened with Leon and Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman was not focused in there. Alright, well, I'm telling you, he was focused in the fifth round. He's always focused, Usman, but he just, for one moment, got put into that little full sense of security, and Edwards was able to knock him out. Same thing happened. It's remarkable. This is where stuff just gets crazy, how both of the Nigerian African champions both were pretty dominant in their fights, and then right towards the end, they make the mistake. Adesanya's mistake, I feel, was backing up constantly against the octagon. And I mean, if he actually took the fight to prayer a bit more, I think could have gassed them out a bit more and gone to the body a bit more. I think Adesanya will look at it and be a bit annoyed with himself, especially the fact that he hurt him in the first move. I think if you can get him out of there, this isn't a thing, but it now is. And this wasn't a fluke, right? You could argue Usman and Edwards was, because Usman dominated him for all the fight and just made them one mistake and got caught. This wasn't that, because the fight was close at points, and Pereira kind of was able just to, again, find that right moment. But the way Adesanya was winning the fight was because Pereira gassed, and because Adesanya remarkably, as we all kind of thought he would, go for be a wrestler and sort of took him down in the third round and was able to essentially get ahead in the fight there. But another training camp with him working with better grapplers, I'm interested. I'm more interested in the Usman Edwards fight to how this rematch is going to go, because I think this could be very, very interesting. But either way, though, an amazing fight. Like I said, Adesanya's a great champion, but sometimes just some things are meant to be. Pereira's just got the power. He's got the size on him. He's just got stuff, the intangibles that just Whittaker didn't have. Kanye, Vittori, none of these guys had it. And Pereira has it, and he's the new middleweight champion. And an amazing story and a crazy, crazy sport that we all love. But yeah, just my quick review of the amazing card of UFC 281. They announced, obviously, that with the Volkanovski Makhachev fight happening, they're also going to have Emmett and Yair for the interim bout, which is a great fight. You got Prohaska and Teixeira next as the next UFC pay-per-view card, so some good fights on the horizon. But yeah, just my, like I said, quick reaction to the crazy card of UFC 281, an incredible card. 2 out of 3 picks I got right. 2 new champions. Amazing card, amazing sport. And yeah, until next time.